All right, welcome back, everyone. We're ready for another deep dive. And this one, well, this one is going to make you think.
It really might.
Yeah, we're tackling a question that has been around for centuries, probably since people started even thinking about math.
Since math was even a thing, yeah.
Exactly. Is math something that we create? Or
Oh.
is it something like out there in the universe just waiting for us to discover it?
Yeah, it's a big question, like a really fundamental question. And there's this article we're going to look at today. It just goes deep into all these different aspects of it.
It does, and I love how it brings up all these wild ideas. Like, we're going to talk about alien math.
Oh, yeah, we have to get to that. Alien math is, it's pretty wild.
And then there's this whole concept of mathematicians having this, like, extra sense. Like, they can see things that, the rest of us can't even imagine.
It's true. And the article even compares math to like a giant jigsaw puzzle.
Okay, so let's unpack all of this. I think a lot of times we think of math as being about, counting things or measuring things in the world around us.
Right, like very practical stuff.
Exactly. But then you get into these, like, really complex concepts, and they just seem so far removed from everyday life.
Absolutely. And that's where things get interesting. Like the article talks about these things called p-adic numbers. Have you ever heard of those?
P-adic numbers. Honestly, that was a new one for me. So break it down. What are they?
Well, it's tough to explain simply, but imagine our regular number system, but instead of just going off to infinity in one direction, it just keeps branching out in all these different directions.
Okay, so it's like infinity, but even more infinite.
Kind of, yeah. And these p-adic numbers, they're used in some pretty advanced math, like number theory and cryptography.
So not exactly the kind of math you use to balance your checkbook.
Definitely not. And here's the thing. These p-adic numbers, they don't seem to have any direct connection to anything in the physical world that we can see or touch.
So then where do they come from? I mean, if they're not describing our world, did we just make them up?
That's the big question, right? Is math something we discover, or is it something we invent?
The article uses Pythagoras' theorem as an example, and it really makes you think.
Right, like squared plus b squared equals c squared. That relationship would still hold true even if Pythagoras had never been born, right?
I guess so. It's not like a scientific theory that could be proven wrong later on. Math seems like it's just, always true.
Exactly. And there's this idea from Plato that mathematical truths, they exist in a realm of perfect, unchanging forms.
Like a world of pure ideas, separate from the physical world.
Exactly. So even if our physical universe vanished, those mathematical truths would still exist.
Okay, so maybe math is this, like, universal truth, but then this article goes even further and says that mathematicians have this almost like supernatural ability to perceive these truths.
Oh, yeah. It talks about Charles Darwin and how he thought mathematicians could see things that, other people just can't even grasp.
Like they have an extra sense or something?
It's kind of like that, yeah. Imagine if you're trying to see a really complex structure, but there's this thick fog in the way.
Okay, I'm picturing that.
And as the fog slowly starts to clear, you start to see the structure more clearly, right?
Well, some mathematicians describe their experience kind of like that. It's like they're perceiving something that was already there all along, hidden beneath the surface.
So are we uncovering math, not inventing it?
Exactly. Which brings us to another really wild question.
I guess.
Alien math.
You got it. What if there are other intelligent beings out there, on other planets? Would their math be the same as ours?
That's crazy. I can barely handle the math we have here. I don't know if I could handle alien math on top of it.
Right. But it's a thought-provoking question. The article talks about this fictional planet called Solaris, where the whole planet is like one big collective consciousness.
Wait, the whole planet is one giant brain.
Basically, yeah. And so the question is, would a being like that even need the concept of numbers as we understand them?
Okay, that's blowing my mind a little bit. So are you saying, like, our human way of doing math, with numbers and equations, maybe that's just one small piece of a much bigger picture?
It's possible. And the article talks about how we can get to mathematical concepts from some pretty unexpected directions. Like, have you ever heard of winding numbers?
Winding numbers, that's a new one.
It's from this area of math called topology, and it's basically a way of counting how many times a loop wraps around a point.
Wait, so you're getting numbers without actually counting objects. How does that even work?
It is pretty weird when you think about it, but picture this. You have a loop, like a piece of string, and it goes around a point. You can figure out the winding number by following the string and seeing how many times it goes around the point completely.
Okay, I think I'm sort of getting it. So even something like numbers, we can arrive at it from all these different directions, maybe even some we haven't discovered yet.
Exactly. It's almost like we're putting together a giant jigsaw puzzle, but we don't have the picture on the box to guide us.
So we're just trying to fit the pieces together,
Yeah.
and we don't even know what the final picture is going to look like.
That's a great way to put it. Every new theorem, every new insight, it's another piece of the puzzle. And the really cool thing is sometimes you find a piece that connects two seemingly completely different areas of math.
Those moments when you suddenly see how things fit together, it's like, aha, and everything just clicks.
Totally. And just when you think you're starting to see the whole picture, something comes along and shakes everything up. Like the article talks about this mathematician, Kurt Gödel, who came up with these things called the incompleteness theorems.
I vaguely remember hearing about those, but refresh my memory.
Well, to simplify it a bit, Gödel suggested that math might be an independent reality that we're just sort of tapping into, not creating.
So it's less about inventing math and more about discovering its inherent structure. Like it's already there and we're just trying to understand it.
Exactly. And the article ends by saying that this whole debate about whether math is discovered or invented, maybe it's a false choice. Maybe it's both.
Both. How could it be
Well,
both?
think about light. We know light can act like a wave and a particle, right?
Yeah, like that whole wave-particle duality thing.
Right. So maybe math is kind of similar. It can be a bit of both depending on how we're looking at it.
Wow. This whole deep dive has really got me thinking. We've talked about the possibility of math existing beyond our physical world, mathematicians having this almost extra sense, and even alien math.
It's pretty wild stuff, right?
Definitely. But I think the biggest takeaway is this question of where math comes from. It's still a wide open question. If math is this separate reality, what does that even mean about the universe?
And could understanding math be the key to unlocking even bigger truths about reality? Things we can't even imagine right now.
It's a pretty awesome thing to think about. And to our listener, if we're just starting to scratch the surface of math, who knows what else is out there waiting to be discovered?
Right. What other mysteries are hidden within these patterns and numbers and relationships?
So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and maybe you'll be the one to make the next big breakthrough. Who knows?
That's what makes it so exciting. The possibilities are endless.
Absolutely. And we'll be back with another deep dive soon, so stay tuned.
We'll see you then.